So, KISLEV is coming. The Warhammer 3 trailer confirms KISLEV will be one of the factions, along with Cathay, Grand Cathay even. But what can we expect from these two factions in terms of playstyle and units? For KISLEV there's a fair bunch of stuff, and we're going to use the expanded roster KISLEV Reborn mod to take a look at some of this stuff, because it is a damn good mod and will give you a taste of KISLEV before Warhammer 3. And as for Cathay, well, there really isn't that much to go on, but there are a few bits, so we'll have a look at what we might be able to expect from them. So let's start with KISLEV. What can we expect from their army and playstyle? They seem to be mostly a human faction, which are pretty similar to the current human factions we have, Empire and Bretonnia. Infantry isn't going to be great. It's not going to be the strongest part of the army, like these half-naked Ungol warriors here. So there's probably going to be a fair share of low to mid-tier units that are going to be okay, but they're not going to be winning the battle for you entirely. Here we've got some Kvasniks, another light infantry that can throw bombs. I don't know if all these units are from tabletop or whether the mod has made some up, but either way, we'll get an idea of some of the things we might see. And a lot of the units are based on actual tabletop units. We got some spearmen over here, Gospodar warriors, another low-tier unit, low-tier cheapy spear unit. So fairly chaffy front lines generally, not going to be the strongest, going to be a little bit weak compared to other factions, but they're going to make up for this in other ways. One of those is a lot of gunpowder. Like these Streltsy boys, you can see they've got a handgun thrown over their shoulder, so probably going to have some armor-piercing ranged attack with that. And they've also got a Bardiche as a melee weapon, so they're actually quite good in melee, and that seems to be quite common in the KISLEV army. Missile units that are also reasonably good in melee. So that'll make them a little bit different from the Empire and Bretonnia, having units that can actually survive in melee and put up a fight, especially when they got a big-ass Bardiche type weapon. And I know those are an actual unit from tabletop, so very likely we'll see those in the CA version of KISLEV. We've also got the Kossars here. They're a light bow infantry, but like I said, missile units that are good in melee in KISLEV. So these boys, as you can see, have a big old axe on the back. So nice two-handed axe, got an armor-piercing melee attack. That's a pretty cool combo to have a ranged unit that also can act as a damage dealer when it comes to melee. That would be a little bit different. So yeah, we could do with a few more of those units. We've got the Free Company Militia in the Empire, which are that kind of hybrid of missile and melee, but none that are really great. And then we've got the Kreml Guard. These are the heavy boys, the elite infantry. We saw some elite infantry in the trailer, so these are probably going to be some form of that. So they are going to have some heavy elite infantry if you want them. Whether they'll be really expensive and you'll be able to bring a lot of them is another question though. We also have some good artillery. There's a couple of good artillery bits for KISLEV. This thing, a Quadra Cannon, the Uragan Cannon, which kind of functions like a Hellblaster volley gun in this mod, but that is pretty cool. Looks really good. Look at that attention to detail. Look at the bears on the top. Look at them with their little hammers. Look how happy they are. They're happy to kill people with their cannons. Lovely. But yeah, that's a really nice looking artillery. So yeah, we got some cool units, and of course, there would be no KISLEV without bear cavalry. Oh yes, that is something I'm very much looking forward to, and this is going to be another one of the strengths of KISLEV is the cavalry. Much like the other two human factions, I imagine they're going to have some kind of similarity to demigryphs. These are Sons of Ursun, so these are going to be some big boy elite cavalry, nice and heavy, lots of mass, going to hit hard. They're going to be pretty awesome. For the Lord, we've got good old Tsarina Catherine Boka herself, who of course we saw in the trailer. And people are also reckoning we're going to get Boris, who is her father, who was apparently dead a little bit before she was alive. But hey, that apparently doesn't really stop Warhammer lore, according to what people have told me. And we've also got an ice switch here. We are going to get the Law of Ice, because that's what Katarine has going on for her. And this mod's actually really good, because it has filled out the Law of Ice, and there are ice spells. So it is really detailed how far he's gone with it, which is pretty cool. I don't know if it's a team or one person, but either way, it's a really well done mod. We've also got a hero here, a Priest of Ursun on his bear mount. Kind of looks like he's riding a guy in a bear suit. But it works. It works for it. So yeah, lots of cool stuff. If CA implements all the similar stuff we're seeing in this mod, then it's going to look pretty damn cool. So yeah, so far we've got these kind of cheaper infantry front lines, maybe. Going to have a lot of kind of chaffier units up front. So front lines aren't going to be very strong, much like Bretonnia and the Empire. But we're making up for this with some strong gunpowder units, some kind of handguns. We got the bows, we got the cannons. We do have some elite infantry as well in these Kreml Guard. And of course, there's always the chance that CA is going to make up some new units that didn't exist in the tabletop before, or that might exist in the tabletop in future. But Cav is where KISLEV can really shine. Griffon Legion here. These are some of the boys we saw in the trailer, I think. They've got lances, they've got the big crazy wings on their back. In the mod here, they're an anti-large cavalry, which they may well be. Could make sense having that big old lance, or maybe they could just be a big heavy shock cavalry. And then we've also got the winged lancers over here. These are a very similar cav actually. They've got the lance as well, quite heavy. Not as strong as the Griffon Riders, but they should pack a punch too. And then we got these boys. These are like outriders essentially. They've got handgunners. They look really cool. I really like how this unit looks. This is the Chekist patrol. These are handguns, but they can shoot 360, so they're armor-piercing skirmish cav. So they're kind of a cross between pistoliers and outriders, as they can do a bit of both of what those units can do. So these are really cool. I hope we see something like that in the final game. And lastly, over here, we got some war wagon type weapons, Ungol wagons. These have archers on the back though, but I think KISLEV do have like proper war wagons like the Empire do, so we might see those for KISLEV as well. But yeah, some really cool units. This is only some of the units in the mod as well. But alongside all the cheap infantry and the gunpowder units, we've got the strong cavalry to go with it. So this seems to me like a fairly good representation of what KISLEV might be, from what I've read about KISLEV in the past couple of days. So yeah, really excited to see how they turn out, and to see how they take on the chaos and what they have to go up against the chaos. Because no doubt all those chaos demons and all those chaos gods are going to have a lot of stuff that is going to be difficult to deal with, like those bloodthirsters we saw from the trailer. Not really sure what KISLEV's going to do about those. Shoot the crap out of them, I suppose. Doesn't seem like KISLEV is going to have many monsters, if any, in their faction. It's mostly humans, horses, and of course bears. We didn't see anything in the trailer that indicated that there was going to be any kind of large units for KISLEV, so yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with them, whether it will be similar to this mod. As I mentioned, do check out this mod, KISLEV Reborn. You can find it on the Steam Workshop. It's got a campaign as well. I do like the animation on these Streltsy. You can see they're resting their handgun on their melee weapon, on their Bardiche, which is really damn cool. So yeah, overall, I think KISLEV is going to be a faction that can kind of be a little bit rush or defensive. They've got the missiles and a bit of artillery to play defensive if they want to, but they've got the cavalry and stuff to play aggressively as well if they want to. So a similar playstyle to the other human factions, perhaps nothing too different here. But of course, who knows? Who knows what CA are going to do with KISLEV overall? Of course, Games Workshop is working on bringing Warhammer Fantasy back, so maybe they're bringing KISLEV back with a full roster. Maybe there's some units that they've already made that is going into Total War. They're going to be completely new. Who knows what the army is really going to be like? But it's looking very exciting. The Warhammer 3 trailer was fantastic. If you haven't seen it already, then what the hell are you doing here? Why aren't you watching that? So yeah, KISLEV looking very, very exciting for Warhammer 3. But what about Cathay? Well, Cathay is a Chinese-themed faction, so all I can really refer to here is Three Kingdoms, in terms of visual style at least. But there is some stuff out there on Cathay. It was never a fully fleshed out faction in tabletop, from what I understand, so there really isn't much to go on. But let me list off some of the units that are in some little lore bits, because it gives you an idea of what we might see. Monkey Warriors, Gigantic Stone Dogs, Serpentine Dragons, that is, snake-like dragons, Golden Bejeweled Dragons, Flying Unicorns, Jade Lions, Terracotta Soldiers. Ogres were also recruited as mercenaries, so we might see some of them for Cathay. Maybe some monks of some kind. The vision I'm kind of getting from all this, honestly, is like World of Warcraft Mists of Pandaria, a Chinese-based expansion for World of Warcraft, where pretty much all the stuff I just listed is in that. So I'm kind of imagining something like that, with monsters and animals being used as part of the army, as well as humans, perhaps giving them a sort of Norska-esque style. I don't really know if they're supposed to be a defensive or a more offensive faction in tabletop. I don't know how much they really were in tabletop, but who knows? They're obviously going to have fleshed out the roster, I imagine, from what tabletop had. Working with Games Workshop, I'm sure they've come up with some awesome new faction. But yeah, that's all we really have to go on for Cathay at the moment, as far as I know. If there's anything I missed, let me know. Drop it in the comments. Hopefully it won't be too long before we learn a bit more about all of the factions and what they can do. But there we go. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the future.